Hello, welcome to another AIC Productions video. Today I'd like to do a quick video about a phone that I consider the best phone that never was. For many years I worked for a major cell phone provider. We're the ones who didn't get the iPhone originally. And I worked there for over 6 years, or around 6 years. And in that time, I saw smartphones go from being strictly for business users, and even then very heavy business users, to being an everyman phone. From the original Treo 600, 650s, 700s, the Windows CE phones, the Windows Pocket Edition phones, the Blackberries, the original Blackberries with a scroll wheel on the side. And then they started to come out with phones like the BlackBerry 8830 and the BlackBerry Pearl and the BlackBerry Curve and the Motorola Q, which was very popular for quote-unquote normal people. And then the iPhone came out and really changed how cell phones were viewed by the mass. And smartphones were now something that weren't just for geeky business people, but were for everybody, because you could get features and options and things that would really improve your life. Prior to that, most smartphones, while giving a lot of tools, really had very little that would benefit the life of the normal everyday person. And so you got phones like the LG Voyager and the BlackBerry Storm. I didn't have either of those personally. They were actually extremely problematic phones, and so I never bothered to get one. Especially the Storm. The Storm was a terrible phone. As far as reliability, it was awesome as far as features and what it could do and performance and everything, but as far as reliability, it was too rushed and had a lot of problems. And prior to that, though, Palm had been very successful and was one of the major players. In fact, I'd almost put them second to BlackBerry as far as being able to deliver a device that was extremely capable, provided an awesome feature set. And the only reason why they were second to BlackBerry, I think, was simply the enterprise class. BlackBerries cater to the enterprise, where Palm kind of did, but more catered to the one-off user. And Palm was slow to react to the iPhone. As I said, within just months of the iPhone being released, LG released the Voyager, which was basically just a regular phone with a couple of really big screens. The BlackBerry Storm came out, and it was a touchscreen BlackBerry, but it needed a lot more development. And when they came out with the Storm 2, it was a much better device, but by then the damage had kind of been done because the Storm had been so unreliable and so glitchy. And so Palm, in both a smart and a dumb way, decided to bide their time and develop something. They didn't want to just rush off to market with something that wouldn't work very well for them. And so they came out with the Palm Pre. And they had the Palm Pre and then the Pre Plus, which is basically the same phone just with more memory. And then they came out with the Pre 2, which was slightly redesigned. And then they were bought out by HP. And they had in development the phone I'd really like to talk about today, which is the Pre 3. Now, when they came out with the original Pre, they had definitely spent their time in development. And they had developed, software-wise, one of the most advanced phones and one of the most feature-rich phones that was available at the time. And I am comparing it to the iPhone at the time, which is the original iPhone. They might have come out with the iPhone 3G at that point, which was the second generation of iPhone. Because at the time, they didn't have games and apps on the App Store. They might have even had an App Store right away with the iPhone. And when the iPhone first came out, it was not geared towards things like gaming like it is nowadays. The phone that we have as an iPhone is very different from that original iPhone released back in, I want to say, 2007. And so when Palm released their Pre, it had amazing software. Unfortunately, it was saddled with fairly poor hardware. And when I say poor, it wasn't, the specs of it were not bad. It had a fairly powerful processor. In fact, it had one of the best 3D graphics processors you could get at the time, and the 3D acceleration on it was excellent. I think it was the best at the time when it was launched. It came with features like wireless charging standard, so all you had to do was get the stand to set it on, but the back was already set up for wireless charging. It came with mobile hotspot out of the box, and you could use that at least at first with no extra fees from the carrier. It just used your data plan. It came with true multitasking, which I'll show you here in a moment, with its cards. And it was very open to development by end users. They basically told you how to quote-unquote jailbreak the phone in the owner's manual. They wanted people to use this phone and develop for this phone. They wanted people to have this phone be something better than it was, that even they could make. They understood the third party, I think, a lot better than even Apple still does to this day. But, as I said, it came out with subpar hardware. Now this is the Pre 3, which you see here in front of you. And originally the Pre had a significantly smaller screen. It was only about this big. It also had a big curved piece of plastic on it. It wasn't this flat glass. And so it was a much smaller device. And the keyboard that it had was very small as well. And so it was hard to type on with no on-screen keyboard. Even if it had an on-screen keyboard, it would have been, you would have had only this much screen to type on as you type down here. And the hinge on it made it feel cheap, which was unfortunate. This hinge on the Pre 3, while much improved, I don't know if you can hear it, it has just a little bit of a wiggle to it, and it clicks. And this is supposedly a brand new phone. And so, hardware-wise, when compared to an iPhone and the Samsung Windows phones that were coming out, and some of the other devices that were being made available through HTC and those companies, hardware-wise, it was a hard sell. It was a really hard sell, because especially with the smaller screen, Apple really defined and has defined what a smartphone is for most users, and that's a touch screen interface. And I don't think Palm recognized that as early. And what I have here in my hands with the Pre 3 is really what the hardware should have been at initial launch with the Pre 3 years previously to this. So, it just it was unfortunate that HP or Palm waited so long to release this particular device. Now, HP, the reason why I call this the best phone that never was, is HP never officially launched this phone, at least not in the United States. They made the phones, they put them in a warehouse, they got all geared up to launch it, and then they killed it. They did that with the HP Touchpad as well, which is the WebOS tablet, which I did have a couple of those. I've since sold them. It's been a few years, and I've sold them, and I kind of regret doing that because they were awesome devices with an amazing operating system. However, unfortunately, when they killed the device, after a couple of years, they killed the support behind the device, namely the App Store, as well as the system you need to actually log in and set up your account with the device. Now I'll go show you what that means here. So let's go ahead and actually do a tour of the device. First, just the box. It's just a simple box designed by HP in California, which actually it was designed by Palm, and HP just released it after they purchased Palm. It's running WebOS, has a touchscreen, does email, it's a world phone. Now this one happens to be for AT&T. I did pick this one up off eBay a couple weeks ago just to play with for this video. And in the box it's fairly basic. It just came with you know, the instruction manuals everybody just throws away, and charging cable. I don't have AT&T. This phone is still locked to AT&T. I'm debating on whether I'll unlock it or not. I'm going to have to do some playing around with it to see if it will be worth my time. But the device is fairly small. Here is my 5-inch screen R1 HD from Blue that I've done a review video on. And so you can see just how much smaller the Palm device is. And this was the bigger device. This is the one with the bigger screen. And you see how diminutive it is compared. And so this, you know, when this released, if this had released against the original iPhone, yes, it still would have had a slightly smaller screen, but not by much. I want to say this is a 3.5-inch screen, and the original iPhone was a 4-inch screen. They might have been very similar in size. Now, as I was talking with WebOS, now unfortunately, because they've killed the App Store on this, you actually can't download any apps. And because this phone didn't come with any pre-installed, I can't download any of the 3D apps. But what you're seeing here are the cards. So when you launch an app, go ahead and go into here, and we'll launch the Amazon MP3, which I don't believe works. And it launches and it fills your screen. But say you want to switch to a web browser. Do I have web browser up? I did. No, I don't. So go ahead and launch the web browser. There's the web. You see the other app is still open right there. So prior to this phone, or I should say the original pre being launched, there was no multitasking on phones. You did one thing, you closed the app, and you did another thing. Since then, obviously, there has been a big push for multitasking the last couple of years, and just about every OS does some form of multitasking on some level. But most of it looks like how Palm did it originally. It's very similar. I have open apps on my... So I only have one app open, but on my Android device. But as you can see, it shows instead of being horizontal, they're vertical tiles for the multitasking. Now, one thing that you can do with the pre, which I think is kind of cool, is you can tap and hold on one of these cards and you can slide them around and sort the order. So if there's a few apps you use frequently, you just leave them open, you can have them here in the front. The other thing you can do is you can stack apps, stack cards. So now you have these stack of cards and you can swap them between the stacks, which is really awesome. The battery life on this phone was phenomenal as well. The screen on it is excellent. It's really a nice crisp screen with a high resolution, especially for the time. It may not match up to high-end phones today, but at the time the screen on this was really good. And as you see, it has the mobile hotspot in there. And I did go ahead and try to add my email address, and it just tells me bad request. I'm going to have to do some searching around, see if I can set this phone up again. Now, previously, when this phone was launched and being supported, you had an HP account that you would log into, and you could sync your contacts, your email accounts, not your actual emails, but just the accounts and things. So when you set up the phone for the first time, it actually log you into that HP account, and it would set everything up. You just had to type in all your passwords again. And it even have the games you downloaded, or any applications you downloaded through the store. It would show, and that's another thing that was promised but never delivered on completely. The touchpad and the pre-device were running the same operating system. So if you downloaded an app to your pre-device, it would download it to your touchpad if they're compatible, and vice versa. And some of that's kind of come out again since then with iOS devices and with the Windows devices, and somewhat with the Android, where you can go into the store and see what apps you've downloaded previously. That didn't exist before the pre. So this phone was such a trailblazer in so many areas. And HP promised, and again they didn't deliver on this, that functionality would be also available for the desktop as well. And so the applications would run across the phone, the tablet, the PC, and then also they're planning on putting WebOS on like their printers and other devices that they sell, servers, that sort of thing. They were planning on using the WebOS for a lot of different functionality, which would have made it an even better operating system. Unfortunately, they did kill it, and because of that, we're left with these legacy devices hanging around without a lot of support and missing functionality. So I think if Palm had released this device first, what the pre is now, as far as the screen size, screen resolution, things like that made the phone a little bit higher end looking and feeling than they did with the original pre, I think they would have done better. Obviously, looking back, hindsight's 20/20, and oftentimes you're still even wrong then. But this was an excellent device. I still love this device. I think it just is the smartest design of an operating system. Original thoughts, a lot of original thoughts went into this device that you now see in other phones and other operating systems. But at the time this released, again, this was over 7 years ago, that these devices were releasing for the first time. And it really changed the market. And so a lot of the things that you have and enjoy in your smartphone today, you can thank Palm and the Pre for bringing those to the market. Anyways, this video's gone on a bit longer than I planned it to. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.